Welcome to One World News, where we bring you the most pressing stories shaping our global landscape today. In this edition, we dive into the cutting-edge advancements emerging from America's forefront of laser weapon technology, with remarkable innovations promising to revolutionize modern defense systems. These developments raise both excitement and critical questions about the future of warfare. Meanwhile, we turn our attention to a more enduring challenge that spans continents: political greed. From corporate lobbying to corruption scandals, political greed continues to undermine trust in governance and stall progress worldwide. Join us as we explore how these two powerful forces, technological prowess and political ambition, are influencing the course of our shared future. Let's take a look inside America's cutting-edge laser weapon technology shaping modern warfare. In the rapid evolving landscape of modern warfare, technological innovation is more crucial than ever. Among the most groundbreaking advancements are America's cutting-edge laser weapon systems, which promise to redefine the future of defense and combat. These high-tech weapons offer unparalleled precision, speed, and efficiency, capable of neutralizing threats from drones to missiles in the blink of an eye. In this blog post, we will talk in-depth look inside the world of America's laser weapons technologies, exploring how they work, their strategic advantages, and the transformative impact they are having on military operations worldwide. Join us as we uncover the science and strategies behind these futuristic tools that are shaping the battlefield of tomorrow. Now, this captivating video offers an intriguing glimpse into some of America's most advanced laser weapon systems, showcasing cutting-edge technology that is revolutionizing modern defense capabilities. As you watch, you'll see how high-energy lasers are being deployed to intercept and neutralize threats with unprecedented precision and speed, from disabling drones to targeting incoming missiles. The footage highlights not only the powerful beams of concentrated light, but also the sophisticated engineering behind these weapons, including cooling systems and tracking mechanisms that ensure accuracy over long distances. By exploring these impressive demonstrations, viewers gain a deeper appreciation for how laser weapons are shaping the future of warfare, blending science fiction with reality in a way that underscores America's commitment to innovation and national security.
Iranian Shahed drones pose a real threat to U.S. forces and our Gulf allies. So the Pentagon is now deploying new laser technology to help take them down.
Brian Yennis joins us live from our London bureau. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Lawrence, Ainsley, and Brian. You know, the U.S. Navy is equipped with two laser systems that are capable of taking down these Iranian drones, the Odin and the Helios. Now, the Odin was spotted in a CENTCOM video that was released at the beginning of Operation Epic Fury on board the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer. You can see it there in that box. Now, the Odin blinds drones, firing an infrared beam that overwhelms drone sensors, causing it to crash or fail. There are at least two destroyers in Epic Fury that are equipped with the Odin. Now, the Helios is a high-energy laser beam with a high-powered sensor that tracks, blows up drones and missiles in the air by igniting the fuel. Now, the Helios is not confirmed to be deployed in Epic Fury. It's only known to be on a U.S. ship that was last seen in the Indo-Pacific in Japan. Now, these technologies are vital in defending against Iran's drone attacks. Iran has fired off 4 times as many Shahed drones as ballistic missiles attacking our Gulf Arab allies. Now, Iran's biggest advantage is that these drones cost $35,000 to make, but one Patriot missile fired to shoot down these drones costs $4 million per missile. Now, these laser technologies cost pennies per shot, and perhaps they're part of the reason why the U.S. says it is not concerned about running out of munitions in this war.
Now, let's discuss the advancement in laser weapons technologies in the United States. The United States has made significant strides in developing cutting-edge laser weapon technologies that are transforming the landscape of modern warfare. These advancements focus on creating highly precise, efficient, and scalable laser systems capable of neutralizing a wide range of threats, from drones and missiles to small boats and ground vehicles. By harnessing high-energy laser beams, These weapons offer unprecedented advantages such as instantaneous targeting, reduced collateral damage, and lower operational costs compared to traditional kinetic weapons. One of the key breakthroughs lies in the improvement of laser power output and beam control, allowing for longer engagement ranges and enhanced accuracy. The integration of adaptive optics and sophisticated targeting algorithms ensures that laser weapons can maintain effectiveness even in adverse weather conditions or against rapidly moving targets. Moreover, the modular design of many U.S. laser systems enable their deployment across various platforms, including naval ships, ground vehicles, and aircraft, providing versatile defense capabilities. The United States military investment in directed energy research has also led to the development of compact mobile laser units that can be rapidly deployed in the field. These systems not only bolster defense measures, but also open new tactical possibilities for offensive operations, marking a significant leap in warfare technology. As laser weapons technologies continue to evolve, they are set to play an increasingly critical role in maintaining national security and shaping the future of combat. Now let's take a look at how laser weapons work. The science behind the technology. Laser weapons represent a revolutionary leap in modern warfare, leveraging the power of concentrated light to deliver precise, rapid, and highly effective strikes at their core. These systems operate by generating a focused beam of coherent light, often produced by solid-state lasers, fiber lasers, or chemical lasers that can be directed at a target with incredible accuracy. When the laser beam hits its target, the energy is absorbed and converted into heat, rapidly raising the temperature to levels that can disable or destroy the object, whether it's an incoming missile, drone, or other threats. The science behind laser weapons involves complex principles of optics and photonics. The laser coherence ensures that its light waves are in phase, allowing the beam to stay tightly focused over long distances. This precision is enhanced by advanced targeting systems that track fast-moving objects and continuously adjust the beam to maintain focus. Power generation and thermal management are also critical components, as maintaining a higher energy output while preventing the system from overheating requires cutting-edge cooling technologies. Moreover, laser weapons offer several strategic advantages. They can engage multiple targets with near instantaneous response times, produce minimum collateral damage, and operate at a fraction of the cost of traditional ammunition. As research progresses, these systems are becoming more compact, efficient, and integrated into various military platforms, marking a new era in defense technology where the science of light transforms the battlefield. Now we'll discuss the advantages of laser weapons in modern warfare. Laser weapons are rapidly transforming the landscape of modern warfare, offering a range of compelling advantages over traditional weaponry. One of the most significant benefits is their precision. Unlike conventional munitions, lasers can target enemy threats with pinpoint accuracy, minimizing collateral damage and enhancing mission effectiveness. Additionally, laser weapons provide virtually limitless ammunition as they rely on electrical power rather than physical projectiles, allowing for sustained operations without the need for constant resupply. Their speed is another game changer. Laser beams travel at the speed of light, enabling instantaneous engagement of fast-moving targets such as drones, missiles, and aircraft. Furthermore, laser systems boast a lower operational cost compared to traditional weapons, as they eliminate the expense associated with manufacturing, transporting, and storing ammunition. Finally, the scalability of laser technology means that energy output can be adjusted to suit different tactical requirements, from disabling sensors to destroying armored vehicles. Together, these advantages position laser weapons as a formidable and efficient tool in the evolving arsenal of modern militaries. Now, let's discuss the laser weapons system currently in development. And the landscape of modern warfare is rapidly evolving, and laser weapon systems are at the forefront of this transformation. Across the United States, several cutting-edge laser technologies are either in active development or have already been deployed, signaling a new era of precision and efficiency on the battlefield. One of the most notable examples is the U.S. Navy laser weapon system, which has been tested aboard naval vessels to provide a cost-effective, scalable defense against drones, small boats, and other threats. Laser weapon system uses concentrated beams of light to disable or destroy targets at the speed of light, offering a virtual limitless magazine without the need for traditional ammunition. In parallel, the U.S. Army is developing high-energy laser systems designed to protect ground forces from rockets, artillery, and mortars. These systems integrate advanced targeting and tracking technologies to identify and neutralize incoming threats milliseconds before impact, significantly enhancing troop safety and operational effectiveness. Additionally, the Air Force is exploring airborne laser platforms capable of intercepting missiles and other aerial threats. These mobile laser systems promise rapid response capabilities and the flexibility to engage multiple targets simultaneously. Together, these innovatives showcase the remarkable progress America is making in laser weaponry. By harnessing the power of directed energy, the United States military is not only improving defensive measures, but also setting new standards for precision, sustainability, and tactical superiority in modern warfare. Now, this video also explores how the integration of laser weapons into the United States military arsenal is transforming the battlefield landscape, emphasizing rapid response, cost, effectiveness, and strategic advantages for anyone intrigued by innovation and defense. This visual journey into America's laser weaponry is both educational and thrilling.
Welcome to the We On podcast, where we explore fascinating stories and ideas from various fields. In this episode, we uncover how futuristic laser weapons and space-based intelligence are changing the US-Iran conflict, with the US Space Force tracking missile launches from orbit. But behind the scenes, advanced technology is quietly shaping how this conflict is unfolding. The United States is reportedly using laser weaponry in Operation Epic Fury, reports suggest. Videos released by the US Central Command show that the high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance Helios system could have been deployed on a Navy destroyer vessel off the coast of Iran. The laser has a head that can be steered to the desired direction and releases an intense, tightly focused beam of energy to destroy drones. Israel is also said to have deployed iron beam weapons after videos showed rockets being launched and exploding seconds later over the Israel-Lebanon border, the New York Post reported. However, there is no official confirmation on the use of laser weapons by the US Navy or the Israeli military. But the US Navy had tested Helios sometime early this year, which took down 4 drones. US forces struck over 1,700 targets in the first 72 hours of the war, including more than 200 ballistic missile launches in Iran. Many more of them have been left inoperable, while hundreds of missiles have been shot down in the air. All this has been made possible through the use of satellites that detect rockets through infrared sensors and alert ground forces. The US Space Force plays a major role for air and sea forces, telling them where and when to attack, or if a missile has been launched by the enemy, if they should take cover, and also the locations of missiles and launchers. The space program started in 2019 and is proving extremely helpful in fending off attacks by the enemy. The infrared beams from satellites can track the missiles soon after they are launched. They pick up their heat, which is how the Space Force tracks these weapons. Sitting inside radar domes, called radomes, those working on them get real-time information on missile launches. The trajectory is quickly calculated to know the target, and action is initiated to destroy them in the air. Radomes are huge golf ball-like structures inside which the crew working on the beams sit. Satellites, radar, and radomes together form the three layers of the advanced early warning network. Experts attribute minimal casualties and losses on the American side to this advanced tech. The Space Force also works with the US Cyber Command to jam radars. The former detects them, while the latter disables them. It involves infiltrating the system and closing it down. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Dan Kane said that before the first shots were fired, the Cyber Command hit communications and sensor networks across Iran to create chaos inside enemy territory.
Now, here are the advantages and limitations of laser weapon technologies. Laser weapon technologies represent a groundbreaking advancement in modern warfare, offering a range of advantages that traditionally weaponry cannot easily match. One of the most significant benefits is their speed. Laser travel at the speed of light, allowing for near instantaneous targeting and engagement of threats. This capability drastically reduced the reaction time needed to neutralize incoming missiles, drones, or other projectiles. Additionally, laser weapons provide exceptional precision, minimizing collateral damage and increasing mission effectiveness. Their operation also benefit from a relatively low cost per shot compared to conventional munitions, as they primarily rely on electrical power rather than expensive ammunition. However, despite their promising potential, laser weapons also face notable limitations. Environmental factors such as fog, rain, smoke, or dust can scatter or absorb laser beams, significantly reducing their effectiveness in certain conditions. Moreover, current laser systems often require substantial amounts of power, necessitating advanced energy storage and management solutions, which can limit their deployment on smaller platforms. Another challenge lies in thermal blooming, the phenomenon where the laser heats the air it passes through, causes the beam to spread and lose focus over long distances. Lastly, while laser weapons excel at disabling or damaging electronic systems and small targets, they may struggle against heavily armored or fast-moving targets without sustained exposure. In summary, while laser weapons technologies are poised to transform the battlefield with their speed, precision, and cost efficiency, ongoing research and development are essential to overcome environmental and technical constraints. Understanding both their strength and limitations is crucial as military forces integrate these cutting-edge systems into future defense strategies. Now we will discuss the impact of laser weapons on global military strategy. The advent of laser weapon technology is profoundly reshaping global military strategies, ushering in a new era of precision, speed, and efficiency on the battlefield. Unlike conventional weaponry, lasers offer near instantaneous targeting capabilities with minimum collateral damage, allowing militaries to engage threats with unprecedented accuracy. This shift not only enhances defensive measures, such as intercepting incoming missiles, drones, and artillery shells, but also expands offensive tactical options. As a result, nations are reevaluating their defense doctrines, investing heavily in integrating laser systems into their arsenal to maintain strategic superiority. Additionally, the relatively lower operational costs and logistical advantages of laser weapons are prompting a reallocation of military budgets, influencing global powers' dynamics. However, this rapid technological evolution also triggered an arms race, compelling countries to develop countermeasures and adapt to the changing landscape of modern warfare. Ultimately, laser weaponry is redefining the rules of engagement and driving a fundamental transformation in how militaries worldwide plan and execute their strategic operations. Now, in this segment, we will discuss political greed and how it affects American taxpayers. In today's interconnected global landscape, the pervasive issue of political greed continues to undermine the promise of fair governance and equitable progress. One World News often highlights how political leaders prioritize personal enrichment and the consolidation of power over the welfare of their citizens. This insidious greed manifests through corrupt practices, manipulation of policies, and the diversion of public resources into private coffers, exacerbating social inequalities and breeding widespread mistrust among populations. Moreover, political greed doesn't just erode democratic institutions at home, it also destabilizes international relations, as leaders engage in self-serving agendas that hinder collaborative efforts on global challenges such as climate change, poverty, and human rights. Addressing political greed requires vigilant media, transparent governance, and an informed, engaged citizenry committed to holding power accountable on a global scale. The hidden cost of political greed, how it destroys democratic cities. In cities across the globe, the promise of democracy is often overshadowed by an insidious force that quietly erodes its foundations. Political greed, while the allure of power and personal gain may seem distant from the everyday lives of citizens, its impact is both profound and far-reaching. From misallocated public funds to stalled development projects and widening social inequalities, the hidden costs of political greed ripple through communities, undermining trust, stifling progress, and ultimately threatening the very essence of democratic governance. In this post, we will dive deep into political greed, quietly destroying democratic cities, exploring its consequences and the urgent need for transparency and accountability to safeguard our urban future. Let's begin this podcast by understanding political greed and its manifestations. Political greed refers to excessive desire of elected officials and public servants to amass power, wealth, or personal gain at the expense of the communities they are meant to serve. This form of greed often manifests in various ways, including corruption, nepotism, embezzlement, and the prioritization of private interests over public welfare. In democratic cities, where governance is supposed to reflect the will and need of the people, political greed undermines trust in institutions, erodes transparency, and hampers effective decision-making. When leaders focus more on self-enrichment than on equitable policies and social development, essential public services suffer, economic disparities widen, and civic engagement declines. Understanding these manifestations is crucial to recognizing how political greed quietly but profoundly destabilizes democratic systems and diminishes the quality of life for urban residents. Watch this video regarding insider trading.
Lately, focusing on the topic of finance in particular, it feels like the land of the free and the home of the brave is more like the land of insider trading and the home of corruption. I get it, some people have a visceral, knee-jerk reaction to any kind of statement like that, internalizing it as an attack on them personally because of what they believe or who they support politically. But give it a chance, because I'm not trying to insult anyone, at least not much, or use antagonistic rhetoric. I'm just trying to lay out the data and ask a few questions. Here goes. Nancy Pelosi, arguably the poster child now, at least on social media, for the term insider trading. Nancy and Paul Pelosi are a political power couple worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I've actually done a super in-depth video on this before, around 2 years ago, but I want to give a couple of examples briefly to sort of block out the most obvious version of what I'm talking about. Nancy and Paul Pelosi are exceptionally wealthy and incredibly powerful. Paul Pelosi is an investor, and Nancy is obviously a representative in the United States government, former Speaker of the House as well, which comes with a variety of special access permissions. Well, in June of 2022, as per governmental regulations, Paul and Nancy Pelosi disclosed a purchase of 20,000 NVIDIA shares. At the time, it was worth over $3 million. But that purchase, June 17th, if you want to be precise, happened in parallel to Nancy Pelosi spearheading a push for what was called the CHIPS Act, which allocated $50 billion in tax credits and subsidies for American-based technology firms, aka companies like NVIDIA. That is quite obviously a conflict of interest. A husband and wife power couple are buying technology stocks while the wife pushes through tens of billions of dollars in subsidies attached to legislation that she personally helps carry. But it gets even better, because after scrutiny began to grow, they ended up selling their shares of NVIDIA for a loss. What's interesting to me is that they did this while disclosing the trade on the very same day that it was made, which was the first time in history that they had ever done something like that. Typically, they don't disclose their trades until weeks or months afterwards, and they decided to do this one mere days before the CHIPS Act ended up crossing the president's desk. Strange, right? Why would you ever do that if you had insider knowledge? But it's probably quite convenient if everyone's accusing you of insider trading to take a small loss and then say, look, why would I ever do this? If I had insider knowledge, I must not be insider trading. Sure, but the macro picture here is that more than just Nvidia or the CHIPS Act, Nancy and Paul Pelosi also held millions of dollars in a company called Alliance Bernstein, which is itself an investment firm holding over $100 million at the time in a company called TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House back then, keep that in mind, was traveling across the world visiting Taiwan and meeting for hours on end with TSMC executives. I don't necessarily think I have to spell it out here, but holding millions of dollars in technology stocks or investment firms who hold hundreds of millions of dollars in other technology stocks, while you personally push legislation that gives them tens of billions of dollars in grants and subsidies when traveling across the world to meet their executives in such companies in person that you can be directly financially connected back to and benefit from. It's probably the most obvious conflict of interest I can imagine, and yet nothing ever happens to stop it.
Now, let's talk about the impact of political greed on public resources and services. Political greed has a profound and often devastating impact on public resources and services within democratic cities. When elected officials prioritize personal gain or the interests of a selected few over the common good, essential public funds are frequently diverted away from critical infrastructure, education, healthcare, and social programs. These misallocations not only erode the quality and accessibility of vital services, but also deepens inequality and undermines trust in local government. Over time, communities suffer from deteriorating roads, underfunded schools, and inadequate emergency services, creating an environment where citizens feel neglected and disenfranchised. Ultimately, political greed corrodes the foundation of democracy itself. By siphoning resources meant to serve the public, it weakens civic engagement and hampers the city's ability to strive and respond effectively to its residents' needs. This video is a prime example of this abuse.
In our long-running series, Most Corrupt, we give the information, pro and con, and allow the viewers to decide for themselves. However, some cases are irrefutable, and in many cases, just egregious. We have long expected our politicians to operate at a higher moral and ethical level, as they represent us, the people. But this facade has faded away, and for good reason. Our subject now is a stellar example of corruption and graft, and it is not even a close call. Who is Elizabeth Warren? What have been her long-running conflicts with ethics? Did she break the law? How does she wear hypocrisy so comfortably? Elizabeth Ann Warren was born on June 22, 1949 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Warren is a graduate of the University of Houston and Rutgers Law School at Rutgers University, Newark, and has taught law at several universities, including the University of Houston, the University of Texas at Austin, the University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard University. In each of these applications for education and employment, Warren claimed Native American status, which would have given her greater access to those programs and opportunities under affirmative action. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Warren did tick American Indian on Texas bar registration forms, and Harvard Law School listed her as a minority in their affirmative action documents. Using this falsified data, Warren jumped over equally or even more qualified applicants, which is a federal crime, as outlined in the Higher Education Act of 1965. She never submitted documentation supporting her claim of being Cherokee, which would have been required. This act specifies severe penalties for financial aid fraud, including fines up to $20,000 and imprisonment for up to 5 years. Providing false information on the FAFSA is also considered making a false statement to a federal agency. If the FAFSA was submitted via postal mail or computer networks, Applicants may face additional charges for mail fraud or wire fraud, which are felonies that can result in fines and up to 20 years in prison. Financial aid fraud involving identity theft can lead to further fines and imprisonment. In 2012, the Boston Globe, a staunch supporter of Warren, examined an 1894 marriage license application listing Warren's great-great-great-grandmother, O.C. Sarah Smith, as Cherokee. However, this attempt at giving Warren cover failed, and the Boston Globe later issued a correction. The claim came from a family newsletter alluding to such an application. Neither the Globe nor the Genealogical Society had ever examined the primary record. Bottom line, there was no verified original document. The New England Historic Genealogical Society later clarified that it had no proof to support or disprove Warren's claims of native ancestry. Donald Trump seized on the controversy, branding her Pocahontas and publicly challenging her story, arguing that she used the claim to gain opportunities that should have gone to others. At a Montana rally in July 2018, Trump escalated the challenge, saying that if Warren agreed to a debate and took a DNA test that showed you're an Indian, he would donate $1 million to a charity of her choice.
I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
Now, we will discuss how political greed undermines trust in democratic institutions. Political greed erodes the very foundation of democratic institutions by breeding widespread distrust among citizens. When elected officials prioritize personal gain over public service, it sends a clear message that their interests outweigh those of the community they serve. This betrayal fosters cynicism and disengagement as people begin to question whether their voices truly matter or if the political system is rigged to benefit a selected few. Corruption scandals, misallocations of public funds, and no-plaque decisions making processes further deepen this divide, making it increasingly difficult for democratic institutions to function effectively. Ultimately, political greed not only diminishes public confidence, but also weakens the social contract that holds democratic cities together, paving the way for instability and disillusionment. Restoring trust requires transparent governance, accountability, and a genuine commitment to serving the public good, values that stand in stark contrast to the destructive nature of greed. This video reveals classic examples of greed over public interest.
Hi, welcome to America Uncovered. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know, sometimes politics can be a real horror show. For example, zombie campaigns. And no, I'm not talking about this guy running for office. I'm all for politicians with more brains, but that's taking it too far. Zombie campaigns are election campaigns that have been over for a long time, but are somehow still spending money. Reporters from the Tampa Bay Times and WTSP did a year-long investigation into this undead issue, and what they found was truly terrifying. You see, when politicians run for office, they need to raise money for their campaigns, and they get that money through campaign donations. That money can come from a variety of places, from special interest groups to your average American. Yes, even Grandma Betsy. Hi, Grandma Betsy. And overseeing all this is the Federal Election Commission, or FEC. They're there to make sure nothing illegal happens. But what happens to all that money when a politician retires or leaves office? Well, it turns out the law isn't super clear about that. This FEC opinion from 2013 suggests that politicians ought to wind down their campaigns after about 6 months. And then the leftover money can be either returned to donors or given to charity or, and this is what mostly happens, given to another political campaign. But it turns out some politicians don't do that. They keep their campaigns open, spending their campaign funds long after their political careers have died. They become zombie campaigns, and not the fun kind. After analyzing more than 1 million records from the FEC, the Tampa Bay Times has discovered over 100 zombie campaigns across the U.S. Take Robin Talon Jr., a South Carolina Democrat in the House of Representatives. At least he was, but he retired from that position 25 years ago, in 1993. That was the same year Jurassic Park came out. The good one. I feel so old. When Talon left office, he had $400,000 in his campaign account. Grandma Betsy was very generous. Now, keep in mind, according to the FEC, using campaign funds for personal use is prohibited. So it's kind of hard to imagine what legitimate campaign costs he could be incurring 25 years after he retired from office. But according to the federal records, they include over $30,000 in reimbursements to himself. Why? It seems there was no explanation given. He also paid his son $20,000 because, his son is his zombie campaign treasurer. Doesn't stop there. Between 2007 and 2011, Talon paid roughly $8,200 in dues from his campaign fund to an organization he identified only as CCSC. The Tampa Bay Times looked into it and discovered there are no major political groups or charitable organizations in South Carolina with those initials. FEC regulations say he's supposed to list the address of whatever CCSC is, but he doesn't. However, what the Tampa Bay Times did discover is that Talon lives in a 4,400 square foot home in a development within the Country Club of South Carolina. Country Club of South Carolina, CCSC. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Just like it's a coincidence, those payments from Talon are in line with the Florence, South Carolina Club's $300 monthly membership dues and food minimum total. I'm sure that's what Grandma Betsy had in mind when she gave to his campaign. It gets stranger. This is Mark Takai, who represented Hawaii in the House of Representatives from 2015 to 2016. Since 2016, his campaign fund has paid more than $100,000 to campaign treasurer Dylan Beasley. What makes this zombie campaign particularly weird is that Mark Takai died in 2016. Don't worry, he isn't an actual zombie. His campaign treasurer just kept writing checks from Takai's campaign fund to himself. And those are just two examples from more than 100 zombie campaigns from both Republicans and Democrats. So at this point you might be asking yourself, isn't this illegal? Well, it turns out it's as illegal as downloading Jurassic Park from the Pirate Bay. It's only legal if you get caught, right? And it's pretty easy to avoid getting caught by the Federal Election Commission. You just have to make up some vague campaign-related reason for your $4,000 computer that you'll definitely only use for work. And the FEC won't do anything. That's because the FEC is vastly underfunded and understaffed. Last year, it had just 34 analysts to review more than 26 million financial transactions. They just don't have the ability to look into it. And since these politicians are now out of office, it's not like they have political opponents trying to take them down by exposing their corruption. So basically, these politicians can run zombie campaigns, and most likely, the FEC will never find out. They can't even tell from reading their own forms whether the politician is still alive. But even when the FEC does find out, not a lot happens. Per the Tampa Bay Times, zombie campaigns have occasionally come to the agency's attention. Every time, the agency did nothing, and the campaign carried on. Who knew that when politicians have access to large sums of money with zero oversight, they'd abuse it? So how can zombie campaigns be defeated? Well, it's going to take more than a cricket bat, or even a pea shooter. But Congress could step in and put an end to zombie campaigns. All it would take is putting a time limit on how long a zombie campaign is allowed to be reanimated. In fact, there have been congresspeople, both Republicans and Democrats, who've tried to fix this. One bill, sponsored by California Democrat Mark Takano, specified that campaign funds had to be used within 6 years of the last election or before the candidate becomes a lobbyist. It was called the Let It Go Act, but it got frozen. It never even made it onto the floor for a vote. North Carolina Republican Walter Jones tried multiple times to introduce bills that would update the campaign finance law to do things like stop campaign funds for personal use. But his bills all died in Congress. And believe me, they won't be coming back to life. So why doesn't Congress fix this? I mean, it's hard to say. A cynical person might point out that every member of Congress has their own campaign fund, collectively worth millions, so why would Congress people vote to restrict their own money?
Now let's talk about social inequality and economic consequences in affected cities. One of the most devastating outcomes of political greed in democratic cities is the deepening social inequality that often follows when elected officials prioritize personal gain over public welfare. Resources that should be allocated toward essential services such as education, health care, and affordable housing are frequently diverted or mismanaged. This misallocation exacerbates the divide between the wealthy and the marginalized, leaving low-income communities with fewer opportunities and diminished quality of life. As social inequality widens, economic consequences inevitably ripple through the entire urban landscape. Businesses may struggle as consumer spending declines among disenfranchised populations, and reduced investments in infrastructure can lead to deteriorating public services and transportation. Now, over time, these factors contribute to a cycle of decline, driving away talent and innovation, increasing crime rates, and undermining the overall economic vitality of the city. Ultimately, political greed doesn't just erode trust in government, it cripples the social and economic fabric that sustains striving democratic cities. Here are some case studies. Cities devastated by political greed. Political greed has left deep scars on numerous democratic cities around the world, undermining trust, stalling progress, and exacerbating inequality. Take, for instance, Detroit, Michigan. Once a thriving industrial powerhouse, the city's decline has been attributed in part to corrupt political practices that prioritize personal gain over public welfare. Mismanagement of funds and favoritism led to crumbling infrastructure, soaring crime rates, and a shrinking population. Similarly, California, Chicago, New York has struggled with rampant corruptions that divert critical resources away from essential social programs, worsening poverty and fueling social unrest. These case studies highlight a common pattern when political leaders place self-interest above the needs of their citizens. Cities suffer prolonged economic downturns, erode public services, and a loss of civic engagement. Now, understanding these real-world examples underscore the urgent need for transparency, accountability, and ethical governance to revive and protect democratic urban centers from the corrosive effects of political greed. Now, listed are some strategies for promoting transparency and accountability in urban governance. Promoting transparency and accountability in urban governance is essential to safeguarding democratic cities from the corrosive effects of political greed. One effective strategy is the implementation of open data initiative, which make government budgets, contracts, and decision-making processes readily accessible to the public. This openness empowers citizens to stay informed and actively participate in holding officials accountable. Additionally, establishing independent oversight bodies such as ethics commissions or anti-corruption watchdogs can provide critical checks and balances by investigating misconduct and ensuring that public officials adhere to ethical standards. Encouraging community engagement through regular public forums and participatory budgeting processes also foster a sense of collective responsibility, giving residents a tangible voice in how the city is managed. Lastly, leveraging technology like online reporting tools and mobile apps can streamline the reporting of corruption and inefficiency, making it easier for citizens to alert authorities and demand prompt action. Together, these strategies create a robust framework that not only deters political greed but also nurtures a culture of integrity and trust in urban governance. In a world increasingly interconnected by technology and shared challenges, One World News remains dedicated to shedding light on pervasive issues of political greed, a force that undermines democracies, stalls progress, and widens inequality across the globe. As we conclude this segment, it's crucial to remember that the fight against political greed is not just the responsibility of powerful institutions or vigilant journalists, but of every citizen who demands transparency, accountability, and justice in governance. By staying informed, holding leaders accountable, and advocating for ethical policies, we collectively contribute to building a fairer, more equitable world. Thank you for tuning in, joining us on One World News. Together, we can turn the tide against political greed and foster hope for future generations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and comment.